Hello, listeners. Welcome to Stories by Peter Hubb. If you love gripping tales of love, betrayal, revenges, and hard-won truth, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. The Beautiful Illusion. Michael and Sarah were the kind of couple people envied. He was steady, loyal, and patient, the kind of man who fixed leaky faucets at midnight without complaint. She was radiant, full of energy, the woman who could light up a room with her laugh. Together, they seemed unshakable, the perfect suburban dream. When Sarah's younger sister Olivia moved in with them after a painful divorce, it felt natural. Michael welcomed her kindly, setting up the guest room with fresh sheets and a vase of flowers. Sarah hugged Olivia tight, whispering, "You'll be safe here. We'll take care of you." To neighbors and friends, they were the picture of family. A strong marriage, a supportive husband, and a sisterly bond. But masks always crack. Michael noticed it first in small things. Sarah stayed later at work, brushing off his questions with a quick smile. She spent more time on her phone, always flipping the screen face down when he walked into the room. She laughed at texts she didn't share. At dinner, Michael tried to bridge the growing gap. "You've been busy lately. Everything okay at the nonprofit?" Sarah's fork paused for only a heartbeat before she smiled. "Just long days, that's all." Olivia watched the exchange quietly, noting the way Michael's eyes lingered on Sarah, searching for the warmth that used to be there. But Sarah had already turned her gaze back to her phone. The sister's watchful eye. Living under the same roof, Olivia couldn't help but notice the subtle tension. Michael's thoughtful dinners left untouched, Sarah's sudden claims of late meetings, the quiet arguments muffled behind closed doors. One evening, Olivia passed by the living room and overheard them. "I miss us," Michael's voice low and tired. Sarah sighed. "Don't start! I'm exhausted." It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even anger. It was worse. Distance. And Olivia felt a knot of unease tighten in her stomach. Something was shifting in this house, and she wasn't sure anyone wanted to admit it. Cracks in the dream. The weekends used to be sacred. Morning coffee runs, lazy afternoons, shared laughter. Now Sarah slipped away under the excuse of errands or work emergencies. Michael stayed behind, restless, trying to distract himself with chores. Olivia often found him staring out the window, jaw tight. "Maybe she's just under pressure," Olivia suggested once, gently. Michael forced a smile. "I hope so." But in his chest, hope felt more like denial. And Olivia, watching her sister pull further away, wondered if Sarah was hiding something neither of them was ready to face. One evening, Sarah suggested a dinner out, a gesture that surprised Michael. She booked a cozy Italian restaurant downtown, insisting they all go together. For a moment, Michael's heart lifted. Maybe this was her way of bridging the gap. But at the restaurant, Sarah seemed distracted. Her phone buzzed constantly, and she excused herself twice to step outside. When Olivia leaned over to Michael and whispered, "Does she always do this now?" his lips pressed into a thin line. Back at the table, Sarah smiled brightly as though nothing was wrong. "Let's get dessert. My treat." Michael nodded, but his eyes were cold. Olivia watched the performance, realizing the perfect mask wasn't just cracking, it was about to shatter. The morning after the dinner, Michael sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the untouched coffee cooling in his mug. Olivia came in, rubbing her eyes, and sensed the heaviness in the room. "She was gone most of the night again?" she asked carefully.
Michael nodded, his voice rough. Said she was at the office. But I drove by around 9. Her car wasn't there. Olivia froze, unsure how to respond. She wanted to defend her sister, to believe there was some reasonable explanation. But Sarah's patterns were becoming harder to explain away. Michael's eyes searched Olivia's face. "Have you noticed anything?" Her throat tightened. She hesitated, then said softly, "Only that she's different, like she's somewhere else, even when she's here." Michael gave a bitter laugh. Yeah, somewhere else. Late-night secrets, Olivia couldn't sleep. Around midnight, she crept downstairs to grab some water and noticed a glow coming from the garage. Curious, she peeked through the crack of the door. Sarah sat in the car with her phone pressed to her ear, her voice hushed and low. "I can't keep doing this. He's starting to notice." Olivia's pulse quickened. She leaned closer. "I'll see you tomorrow. Same place. Just don't call tonight." Sarah ended the call, sat back in the seat, and pressed her hands to her face. For a moment, Olivia thought her sister might cry, but instead, Sarah straightened, grabbed her purse, and slipped back inside as if nothing had happened. Olivia backed away silently, her heart racing. The truth she had been dreading was becoming undeniable. The next evening, Michael waited up for Sarah. When she finally walked in near midnight, he was sitting in the living room with the lamp on, his expression hard. "Where were you?" he asked, his voice calm but sharp. She blinked, surprised. "At work. You know that." Michael tilted his head. "At work?" "Because I called the office tonight. They said you left hours ago." Her face flushed, but she forced a smile. "Michael, you're checking up on me now? That's not healthy." "Then tell me the truth." For a long moment, the silence between them was unbearable. Finally, Sarah shook her head and said softly, "I can't do this right now." She walked past him, up the stairs, and left Michael sitting alone in the dim light. From the shadows of the hallway, Olivia had watched it all and felt the weight of secrets pressing heavier on her chest. The sister's burden. Days passed with the air in the house growing thick with unspoken words. Olivia tried to focus on her own healing, but the tension consumed her. One afternoon, Michael caught her in the garden, pulling weeds just to keep her hands busy. "You've seen things, haven't you?" he asked quietly. Olivia's breath hitched. She stared at the soil, unable to meet his eyes. "I don't want to hurt anyone." Michael crouched down beside her. His voice was low, pleading. "I just need to know if I'm crazy, if I'm imagining this." Olivia finally looked up, her eyes full of pain. "You're not crazy." Michael closed his eyes, his jaw trembling as though the confirmation both broke him and gave him strength. The next few days were a blur of silence. Sarah went through the motions of her daily life, but every moment seemed shadowed by Michael's suspicious gaze. The tension at the dinner table was unbearable, the scrape of forks louder than any words spoken. Olivia felt trapped in the middle. At night she lay awake, wondering if she had made a mistake by confirming Michael's doubts. Her loyalty to her sister pulled one way, while her empathy for Michael dragged her another. One evening, Sarah slipped into Olivia's room without knocking. Her eyes were red, though her voice carried sharp edges. "You've been talking to him, haven't you?" she accused. Olivia sat up quickly, startled. "What are you talking about?" "Michael," Sarah hissed. "He knows too much. And he looks at me like he already has proof. That didn't come from nowhere." Olivia shook her head. "I didn't betray you, but Sarah, he's your husband. Don't you think he deserves the truth?" Sarah's expression hardened. The truth would destroy everything. She turned to leave, her voice lowering. "And I can't let that happen." Olivia sat in the silence left behind, her heart pounding. Michael's suspicions grew bolder. One night, when Sarah left abruptly after dinner, he followed her. Olivia sat by the window, waiting, anxiety clawing at her chest. Hours later, Michael returned. He looked pale, shaken, but oddly calm. Olivia rushed to the door. "What happened?" He met her eyes, voice steady but hollow. "I didn't see her at work." Olivia's breath caught. "Then where?" "I saw her," Michael interrupted. His hands trembled. "With him. They were together." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Olivia felt the floor tilt beneath her. She had feared this moment, but hearing it aloud was different, final. Michael sank into a chair, his face buried in his hands. "I don't know what to do. If I confront her now, she'll deny it. She'll twist it. But I can't live like this." Olivia sat across from him, speechless. For the first time, she realized how dangerous the truth could be, not just for Sarah's marriage, but for all of them. The next morning, Sarah breezed into the kitchen as though nothing had happened. Michael barely acknowledged her, his jaw clenched, his silence louder than words. Olivia couldn't take it anymore. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "We can't keep pretending."
Sarah froze, her eyes narrowing. Pretending what? Michael finally looked up, his gaze sharp and unrelenting. "That I don't know. That we're not already broken." The room fell into stunned silence. Sarah's lips parted, but no words came. Olivia watched as the first cracks in her sister's carefully maintained facade began to show. Sarah retreated into herself after that morning. Her laughter at gatherings was forced, her charm stretched thin like fragile glass. But Michael's eyes never left her, watching, waiting, measuring every movement. Late one night, Olivia overheard muffled voices in the kitchen. She crept closer and froze at the sound of Sarah's trembling plea. "Please, Michael, don't leave me. I'll fix it. I promise I'll fix everything." Michael's voice was low, almost broken. "You can't fix what's already shattered, Sarah. You just keep covering the pieces so no one cuts themselves. But I'm bleeding every day." Olivia pressed a hand to her mouth, torn between revealing herself or fleeing back to her room. The weight of secrets pressed down harder than ever before. The very next evening, Sarah claimed she was working late again. Michael didn't follow her this time. He was too exhausted from the endless suspicion. But Olivia couldn't resist. Quietly, she slipped out into the night, her footsteps cautious on the dimly lit streets. She found Sarah in a secluded cafe. Across from her sat a man Olivia had never seen before. Tall, sharply dressed, his hand casually resting over Sarah's. Their faces were close, their whispers intimate. Olivia's chest tightened. She didn't need to hear the words. The sight was enough. She hurried back home before Sarah noticed her, her mind spinning. If Michael found out what she had just seen, the fragile threads holding their family together would snap completely.
Michael could no longer contain the storm inside him. That evening, he finally stood his ground, confronting Sarah in the living room where the tension had been building for weeks. "You need to tell me everything," Michael said, his voice steady but laced with pain. "No more lies, no more hiding. Now." Sarah's eyes darted to Olivia, who sat frozen on the couch. I can't, not like this," she stammered. Olivia rose, placing a hand on Michael's arm. "Sarah, this has gone too far. Michael deserves the truth, all of it." Sarah's defenses crumbled. Tears streamed down her face. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I thought I could handle it, that no one would find out." Michael's gaze hardened. "Every secret, every half-truth, it's poisoned us, and now it's time to stop pretending. The choice is yours, honesty or losing everything." Silence filled the room. Sarah swallowed hard, nodding finally, and began to recount every detail, every hidden meeting, every deception. Olivia watched, heart heavy, knowing this confession would forever alter their lives. As the hours passed, the truth spilled out like a torrent, raw and unfiltered. Michael listened, the weight of betrayal heavy on his shoulders, but with each word, he also felt a grim relief. The facade was gone. By the end of the night, the three of them sat in a tense quiet, the air thick but clearer than it had been for weeks. The damage was done, but the path forward, however uncertain, had finally begun.
The tension in the house did not dissipate with Sarah's confession. Michael paced the living room, trying to piece together the enormity of what he had just learned. His hands shook slightly, but his mind was sharp, processing every betrayal. "I can't believe you kept this from me for so long," Michael murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah sank onto the couch, exhausted. "I was scared of losing you, scared of ruining everything we had. I thought I could control it, but I was wrong." Olivia stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on Sarah's shoulder. "The first step is acknowledging it. You've done that. Now it's about what comes next." Michael stopped pacing, meeting Sarah's tearful eyes. "Next, I don't know if trust can be rebuilt, but we will find a way. It will be painful, and nothing will be the same." Hours stretched into the night. They talked, argued, and cried, unraveling years of suppressed emotions and hidden truths. Michael's anger simmered, but beneath it, a fragile resolve began to form. He knew the road ahead would be arduous, but he was determined not to let betrayal define him. As the first light of dawn filtered through the windows, a sense of fragile clarity settled over the room. They had confronted the darkness, and now they faced the uncertain path forward together. The fragile clarity that dawn brought quickly dissolved as reality pressed back in. Michael tried to carry on with his day, but his mind was clouded. Every glance at Sarah reminded him of her betrayal. Every silence in the house felt like a wound reopening. Over breakfast, the tension became unbearable. The clink of cutlery against plates sounded like hammers striking stone. Olivia watched them both carefully, sensing the storm that hadn't yet passed. Finally, Michael set down his fork and looked straight at Sarah. "I can't live like this, pretending everything is normal when it's not." Sarah swallowed hard. "I know. I don't want to pretend either. I'll do anything to prove that I can change, Michael. Just don't give up on me yet." Olivia interjected softly. "Words aren't enough anymore. Actions will matter now. You'll both need to rebuild piece by piece, but only if you truly want it." Michael's jaw tightened. "And if I don't? If I decide that the damage is too deep?" Sarah's voice cracked. Then I lose everything, and maybe that's what I deserve."
The room fell silent, the weight of Sarah's admission hanging heavy. Michael felt torn between the years they had shared, the life they had built, and the sharp sting of betrayal that wouldn't leave him. For the first time, he began to question not just Sarah's choices, but his own capacity to forgive. The chapter of truth had opened. What lay ahead would test their very limits.
The evening settled heavily over the house, shadows stretching across the walls like silent judges. Michael sat alone in the living room, staring at the dim light of a lamp, his thoughts a storm. Sarah lingered at the doorway, hesitant, her hands trembling as she twisted the hem of her shirt. "Michael," she whispered, her voice barely carrying, "please talk to me." He didn't look at her. "What more is there to say? You broke something that doesn't mend easily." She stepped closer, her eyes glistening. "I was weak. I let loneliness drive me into a darkness I should have never touched. But I don't want to lose you." Michael finally turned, his gaze sharp, cutting. "And what about me? What about the nights I lay awake wondering why I wasn't enough, why the vows we made weren't enough for you?" Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. "You are enough. You've always been enough. I was the one who failed." The silence that followed was thick with pain. Olivia entered quietly, setting a mug of tea on the table as if to anchor them in something ordinary. She looked between them with calm but firm eyes. "Both of you are bleeding from the same wound," she said, "but you're choosing different ways to face it. Michael, you need to decide whether you can let her fight for your trust. And Sarah, you need to prove with more than words that you're worth that chance." Michael rubbed his temples, exhaustion weighing on him. "I don't know if I can forgive, but I don't know if I can let go either." Sarah reached for his hand, hesitant, her touch light as a feather. "Then let me try. Even if it takes the rest of my life, let me try." The moment teetered on the edge, a fragile balance between hope and despair, where one choice could redefine their future.
The next morning dawned gray, the sky heavy with unspoken threats of rain. The house felt hollow, as if it carried the weight of their fractured bond within its walls. Michael sat at the breakfast table, untouched coffee cooling in front of him. Sarah moved quietly around the kitchen, every gesture careful, as though one wrong move might shatter what fragile peace remained. Olivia entered, sensing the silence. She leaned against the counter, watching them both with eyes that had seen too much. "You can't keep circling each other like ghosts," she said softly. "Something has to give." Michael looked up at Sarah, his voice rough. "Last night you asked me to let you try. But how do I try when every word feels like a lie, when every silence between us feels like proof of what you've done?" Sarah's hands tightened around the edge of the counter. "Then let me earn it, piece by piece. Don't expect it to happen overnight, but don't lock me out either. If I meant nothing to you, you wouldn't still be here." Her words hung in the air, raw and trembling with desperation. Michael wanted to deny them, to walk away and end the torment, but something in her tone tethered him. He clenched his fists. "You talk about earning it, but what does that even look like? What proof can you give me that isn't just another promise waiting to break?" Olivia stepped forward, her expression resolute. "Then test her. Don't let this fester in silence. If Sarah says she wants to fight for you, give her the chance to prove it. But be clear about what it will take for you to even consider forgiveness." The clock ticked in the corner, each second louder than the last. Sarah's voice broke the stillness, trembling but determined. "Tell me what you need, Michael. Put the weight on me. I'll carry it." He met her eyes, torn between anger and a flicker of the love that once defined them. The moment stretched, taut, as though the future of their marriage balanced on a single thread.
Michael pushed away from the table and rose slowly, as if carrying the weight of years. His eyes never left Sarah's. "If you want me to believe you, then no more shadows, no more half-truths. Every message, every call, every detail. I need to see it. Not because I want to control you, but because I can't rebuild trust blind." Sarah swallowed hard, her lips trembling. "If that's what it takes, then I'll give it. My phone, my email, everything. I won't hide again. But, Michael, trust can't be rebuilt on chains. It has to come from you wanting to believe in me again." The storm outside broke with a low rumble, as if echoing their turmoil. Olivia stayed quiet, sensing that this was their crucible. Michael's jaw tightened. "I don't know if I can want that yet. But I know I can't live in this limbo either." So we start small. Total honesty, no excuses, no delays. One lie, one omission, and it's over. Sarah nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Then hold me to it. I won't fail this time." For a long moment they stood across the kitchen like adversaries forced into a truce neither fully believed in. The distance between them felt insurmountable, yet in Sarah's trembling words, Michael heard a spark, fragile but real. Olivia finally spoke, her voice steady but tinged with warning. "This is your chance. But remember, rebuilding doesn't just test Sarah, it tests you too. You'll both be different at the end of this road." The rain lashed against the windows, a relentless rhythm to their silent vow. Neither spoke further, but something had shifted. Not reconciliation, but the faint outline of a path forward. The next morning, the house was quieter than usual. The storm had passed, leaving the air damp and heavy, as though nature itself held its breath. Michael sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, while Sarah moved cautiously in the kitchen, the clinking of cups and plates echoing in the stillness. Olivia watched them both from the hallway. She could sense the fragile truce, but also the unresolved tension. Michael had demanded truth, and Sarah had promised it, yet promises were not healing. They were only scaffolding, fragile supports over deep cracks. At breakfast, Michael finally broke the silence. "I keep thinking about the first time you lied to me, not this latest betrayal, the first one. Do you remember it?" Sarah froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Her eyes flickered with shame. "Yes, I remember. I thought if I told you the truth back then, I'd lose you. I didn't realize that lying would do worse." Michael's voice was low, steady. "Every time I look at you, I see both the woman I love and the shadow of those lies. And I don't know which is stronger." Sarah set her fork down with trembling fingers. "Then let me show you. Let me prove that I can be more than those mistakes." Before Michael could respond, Olivia spoke up. "The past doesn't vanish because we choose not to speak of it. If you keep circling the same wound, it'll never close. You both have to decide whether you're willing to heal it together or keep reopening it until there's nothing left." Michael leaned back, rubbing his temples. "Easier said than done, Olivia." Olivia's tone sharpened. "No one said it would be easy, but pretending you can rebuild without facing the rot beneath, that's impossible." Sarah reached for Michael's hand, hesitant but brave. "Then let's face it, all of it, even if it breaks me." Michael looked at her, really looked, as if searching for something beyond words. The silence stretched, fragile as glass. For the first time, he didn't pull away. That evening, the house seemed heavier, as though the walls themselves absorbed every word left unspoken.
Michael sat by the window, staring into the dark garden where the trees whispered with the wind. Sarah lingered nearby, her body tense, as if torn between walking away and stepping closer. Finally, she broke the silence. "There's something else I never told you, something I buried so deep I convinced myself it didn't matter, but it does." Michael's jaw clenched. "Another secret?" Sarah nodded, her eyes shimmering. "Back when it all started, I didn't just enjoy the attention. I wanted to feel chosen, because with you I was always terrified you'd see through me, that you'd realize I wasn't enough. So when someone else noticed me, it felt like I mattered. I told myself it was harmless, but it wasn't. It chipped away at us." Michael's breath left him slowly. "Do you even understand what that did to me? Every doubt I had, every night I lay awake wondering why I wasn't enough for you. It consumed me." Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. "I know, and that's why I have to tell you everything now, before it poisons us beyond repair." Olivia, who had been sitting quietly in the armchair, finally spoke. Her voice was steady, cutting through the tension. "Secrets don't vanish when you bury them. They grow roots, and the deeper they go, the harder they are to pull out." Michael looked at Sarah, his face unreadable. "So this is it. No more half-truths, no more trickling confessions. If you want me to believe in us, I need the whole truth. Tonight." Sarah swallowed hard, then whispered, "Then you'll have it, even if it destroys me." The room fell into silence again, but this time it wasn't empty. It was brimming, pulsing with the weight of what was to come.
The fire in the hearth crackled faintly, but the warmth did little to ease the chill that gripped the room. Michael's stare was sharp, his patience fraying with each beat of silence. Sarah sat on the edge of the couch, her hands trembling as she tried to steady herself. "You asked for the whole truth," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Then you'll have it, but I need you to understand I'm not proud of any of this." Michael leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "Then stop circling around it. Say it." Olivia shifted uncomfortably, glancing between them. She looked ready to intervene, but something in Michael's eyes kept her silent. Sarah took a shuddering breath. "It wasn't just a kiss. That night I told you about, it went further. Not in the way you think, but enough that I crossed a line I can never take back. I stayed because I wanted the attention, and I let it go on longer than I should have. I betrayed you, even if I convinced myself I didn't." Michael's knuckles turned white as he clenched his fists. "You let me walk around thinking it was all in my head, that my doubts made me paranoid, and all this time you knew." "I was a coward," Sarah admitted, her tears falling freely now. "Every time I wanted to tell you, I saw the life we had built, and I couldn't bring myself to destroy it. But by staying silent, I only destroyed you." The words hung heavy in the room. Olivia finally rose, placing a hand gently on Michael's shoulder. "You both have been bleeding in silence for years. Either you open the wound and clean it, or it festers until it kills everything you love." Michael didn't answer immediately. He looked at Sarah, his expression torn between fury and grief. "I asked for the truth. You've given me part of it, but don't think for a second I believe this is all. Tomorrow I want every detail, every moment, every word, every lie. No more shadows." Sarah nodded, defeated but resolute. "Tomorrow, then, I'll tell you everything." The fire popped loudly, filling the silence that followed.
The night was far from over, but one thing was certain. The reckoning had only just begun.
The night pressed heavy on the house, shadows creeping along the walls like silent witnesses. Michael stood by the window, his reflection staring back at him, fractured by the glass. Sarah sat across from him, her body taut with dread, her hands twisting in her lap. "I can't carry it anymore," she said, her voice trembling. "I lied to myself, to you, to everyone. I thought if I buried it deep enough, it would disappear. But it never did. It rotted inside me." Michael turned slowly, his face unreadable. "Then dig it up, right now, no more delays." Olivia lingered by the door, tense, her eyes darting between them. She knew this was the breaking point. Sarah's lips quivered as she forced the words out. It wasn't a mistake that ended in one night. It continued. "I kept meeting him. I told myself it wasn't love, that it was just weakness, but I craved how he looked at me, the way he made me feel seen. And every time I came home, I hated myself more." Michael's chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. His jaw locked, as though he were holding back a storm of rage. "You're telling me I slept beside you, I trusted you, while you went back to him over and over?" Tears streamed down Sarah's face. "Yes, and every time I swore it would be the last, but I broke that promise again and again, until I didn't know who I was anymore." Michael's fists trembled at his sides. His voice was hoarse, bitter. "Do you even understand what you've done, Sarah? You didn't just betray me. You stole years of my life. You made me believe in a lie." Olivia stepped forward, her tone firm but compassionate. "Michael, let her finish. You need the whole truth before you decide what comes next." Sarah swallowed hard, her body shaking. "The worst part is, I wanted to tell you so many times. I would stand over you at night, watching you sleep, rehearsing the words. But then I imagined the look on your face. This look." She broke down, sobbing, "and I couldn't do it. So I kept burying it, and now it's poisoned everything." Michael turned away, unable to look at her, his shoulders trembling. The silence stretched, broken only by Sarah's sobs and the crackle of the dying fire. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and cold. "Tomorrow there will be no hiding left. I want the full story, every name, every lie, every detail. And when it's done, we'll see if there's anything worth saving." Sarah lifted her head, her face pale but determined. "Tomorrow, then, you'll have all of it. No more lies." The air felt suffocating, the room steeped in dread and anticipation. Tonight was only the prelude. Tomorrow would be the reckoning.
Morning broke with an eerie stillness. The house seemed to hold its breath as Michael sat at the kitchen table, waiting. His coffee had long gone cold, untouched. The silence was broken only when Sarah entered, her eyes swollen from the night before. She set a folded piece of paper on the table between them. "I wrote everything down," she said softly. "Names, places, the truth I should have told you years ago." Michael didn't touch it immediately. He stared at her, searching for any trace of the woman he once believed she was. Finally, he unfolded the pages, scanning the words that carved deep wounds into his heart. Every line was another fracture, another cut. Olivia stood nearby, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if bracing against the storm. When Michael finished, he laid the paper flat, his hands trembling. His eyes lifted to Sarah's, burning with a mixture of fury and sorrow. "You destroyed everything we built, but now at least I know the truth."
Sarah's voice cracked. "I never stopped loving you, Michael. Even in my weakness. Even when I was lost." His lips curved into a bitter smile. "Love doesn't survive on ashes, Sarah. Not when the fire was set by your own hands." The silence that followed was heavier than any words. It was the silence of an ending, or perhaps a beginning of something unrecognizable. Finally, Olivia spoke, her voice calm but firm. "There's one choice left. You can keep living in this house, bound by lies and betrayal, or you can walk away and start over. But you both need to decide." Michael's gaze hardened, his voice steady. "Maybe the question isn't about us anymore. Maybe it's about what comes next." He turned to Sarah, his expression unreadable. "Do we burn it all down or try to rebuild from the ruins?" Sarah reached for his hand, her eyes glistening with desperate hope. But Michael didn't move. The choice hung in the air, a haunting echo of everything they had lost. And now, listeners, the question is yours. If you were in Michael's place, would you stay and try to rebuild, or walk away forever?
The dust has settled, but the echoes of choices linger. Michael holds the weight of truth in his hands, while Sarah reaches out with trembling hope. Between them lies not just a broken past, but the question of a future yet unwritten. Olivia's voice was clear, her words cutting through the silence. The past can't be erased, but the future, that's still yours to decide. Michael's eyes drifted to the window, where dawn painted faint strokes of light across the horizon. For the first time, he realized that no matter what he chose, staying or leaving, nothing would ever be the same again. The story of Sarah, Michael, and Olivia closes here, but the question remains for you listeners. If forgiveness was possible, but trust was shattered, what would you choose? If this story touched you, make sure to subscribe to Stories by Peter Hub and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps these stories alive.